have Monarchs. We've also got more access to Gem Knights to clear up them fields. And yes, Regenesis cashed here out. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. You know, when you top an event with Monarchs and Grand Marg is in your main deck, you have the greatest deck profile in all time of 2025. And that's exactly what we saw this deck do. It smashed through a regional, and honestly, most people don't seem to understand that if a deck in this modern era can go first and you can establish domain lock against your opponent, most decks just don't respect this right now. And obviously, you know, yeah, you're also going to have access into the Vanities Fiends and things like that, but if you can double layer protection lock your opponent, it's pretty good. Now, we also do get to see that, you know, getting access to the Monarchs Revolt was kind of a game changer for this, because it's discard 1 to reveal 3, and then your opponent chooses for you to add 1 to your hand. The rest will go to the graveyard. All right, which, I mean, then you lose your extract, but then you can banish this to special summon 800,000 from the hand, which ends up being very, very important for the new support here, which is Tessera. Then we do get into the haha funny interactions here with the master plan, which lets you mill 1. And if this card becomes banished, you target a face of match opponent controls and add a monster with the same attribute as it with 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense from your graveyard. And then you get the ability to basically tribute summon one of the 6 listed elements, but with the specific names. So that's where the earth, the, you know, the light come into play here. But hey, man, in 2025, somebody smashed through the barrier and made us realize that we had forgotten about such things like Grand Marg, the Rock Monarch, actually being a monarch that we could choose. Also, never forget when Zaborg lost his star to the disco off back in the day. That's why Shape Snatch has his extra star. Good times. Next up here, we have Gem Knights. So Gem Knights is in an interesting position right now, because in theory, this deck should still be able to do its same game plan every single game, where you slam second, you try to start breaking apart anything that the opponent has set up, and that should be the fundamental game plan. I mean, that's why we have board breakers in here like the droplets. That's why you've also got the sales ban in here as well, so that you can do your thing. And even we're going one step further, and we're even patting this deck down with the Shaddoll Fusion access, so that, you know, you can get immediate access into a construct, which, by the way, Construct can also help you disassemble the opponent's field. Also, Construct being able to mill down light is how you're going to get the Neprim down here, which just works out very, very nicely. Now, I don't think there's much of an argument here to try to make this deck go beyond 2 sales ban. I think you want to, you know, keep your things realistic here. You know, if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, you know, if I'm extending sales ban here, am I going to run into consistency issues? I mean, it is only a 1, you know, time activation for you to jam out per turn. So that is something that you got to think about. But also at the same time, you can thrust into the sales ban and then use it through that method. That is something to kind of think about. But I do think access to the 2 is fine. The only other big thing that really stinks about having to consider playing Gem Knights in this current age is you are going to have to kind of go above the threshold. You know, 42 cards is maybe not the greatest thing that you're going to want to do, but I think in terms of how this deck has to play, you are going to have to float around 42 just to kind of get in, you know, all the pieces that you're going to need to for this. Next up here. This is a classic at this stage. When all else fails and you think that, you know, the format might not be fun, just go dig out the most mid-range control cards that you can find. Because fundamentally, I mean, Cashed Hero's got to come back into style. But also, this is another 2,500 monster if you were to play Dragon's Mind, which it's not really doing too much here. The big thing you're using this stuff for is these are anchor points for these guys to bring themselves in, because, you know, Unicorn just has that stat line that you want to be seeing here. You're also going to notice, oh boy, you know, we're only playing 1 birth in here. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel that Birth is always going to be one of those very, very nice cards you're going to look at and you're going to go, hey, this brings back a bunch of dudes. Is one of it going to be good enough? I mean, also this list is already shrunk down to playing a single copy of Regenesis. This is more or less Kashtira featuring Regenesis cards at this point, and this is actually a Regenesis deck at this stage. So when you're looking at the deck development process and the deck building here, I do think that there are some things that could be a little bit better off in the streamlined department. I don't think anybody's really gonna, disagree with that. But looking at how this build is going, you're going with 2 droplets. You do get to see the Book of Eclipse as this silly, stupid little monster that it usually is. And I think that that's fine. We do tend to see that Book of Eclipse still acts as a very, very strong card to deter your opponent, especially getting a full flip face down of any real problematic cards your opponent might be trying to throw at you. I guess I do kind of appreciate that, right? Good access control options do a lot for decks nowadays. Oh, we have access to more DDD. So one cool thing that I have noticed across every DDD list that, you might find underneath the sun is Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness pretty much is mandatory at this point as a main deck card. Because you've got people out here that are looking to lava golems, to sphere modes, these ha-ha, funny, stupid, annoying cards that, you spend all of this time building your DDD board and your opponent just starts dissecting your board. That's where we have the Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness here to make sure that, they can't be targeted. You're going to get that protection from the tribute summons, and it honestly does kind of work out for you in that way. You don't have to worry about getting decombobulated. I do see that this build is also playing the triple super poly. Obviously, Mud Dragon and Garua still remain the 2 biggest options for you to do your thing. You can get really cheesy and play the heavy poly in here. We've joked about heavy poly in the past, but a good chunk of the list have actually really looked at heavy poly as a very, very good card, especially since, we don't have a side deck posted for this list. You can explore and decide which ways you want to go. I also do see here you have the counts or scale surveyors with the 1 count surveyor. This feels really weird to me because Count Surveyor just feels like the better card when you start to get into, the deck building process here. So I guess, honestly, it's going to depend on, your deck building. DDD is still very much a deck that is being figured out by the player base. And maybe, just maybe, there will be some changes along the way that might make this a little bit better. But for the time being, adjust and build how you want to. Alright, so our last list here is actually going to be an interesting concept of Canine with Fiendsmith cards. Now, there's really not much of an overlay here that you're going to be able to access because Moon of the Closed Heaven went away, which was our generic light fiend monster, which kind of stinks, but I mean, you do get full access to going down all of the canine stuff here and being able to use this to basically build your field, which I think does work out very, very well. You are going to notice that we are also playing Disc Blasters and the Overlay Booster in here as well. The Overlay Booster acting as a little free body for you to kind of extend with is going to be a little bit important. And I think you're obviously playing Canine, you're going to be generating all of these little free bodies to kind of help you out. But also, one cool thing about this list is we also do get to see the Release Restraint, and we also do get to see the Special Release Experiment in here. Both are 2 cards that I don't really get the chance to see too much. I've once in a while seen the Special Release Experiment show up in, side decks every once in a while because it is a pretty strong card, but most of the builds these days don't even really want to look at this card as an option, just kind of something that you're like, hey, we can kind of play this, but it also does act as another canine card, kind of interact with if you need to pull it out of the deck off of, the Search for the Ripper. So that's kind of something to consider, but interesting list, to say the least. But what do you guys think about all these cool decks that are, kind of starting to show up? So please, if comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here in day, guys. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.